Hey there, I'm Nu-Trix, and today we're looking into another plugin from Hornet, which does really cool plugin. They sound really nice, and for what I understand is the developer that makes it for his own purpose, and he's a musician and mixing engineer, so it really is aimed to sounding good first. Some people say that the graphic of a plugin is important for getting inspired by it. The graphic of these plugin, like this one, like the other plugin of Hornet, are flat design, so simple, but they're easy to read and fast to work with, and they sound really good. This plugin is not an exception. So it's called the H76. It's a recreation or inspired by and up to a point enhanced as a plugin. We always have a little bit more than the hardware. It's from the classic 1176 from, we'd say today, Universal Audio. It was built by Bill Putman in the 60s. It's the blackface compressor that everybody talks about. It's been recreated or copied by so many other brand, hardware at one point, software by many. If for those who don't know, Bill Putman is behind URI, he's behind Studio Electronics, is behind Universal Audio, and his sons brought back Universal Audio in the late 90s, early 2000, and that is now the software and hardware company Audio that are still making the 1176. So a lot of companies made virtual version of it. The one that Hornet has out runs on Mac, PC, and iOS. So I'm testing the iOS today. It sounds really good, but like what we should expect from an 1176. What's cool about it is that there's a little bit more, because it's a plugin. There's a little bit more features, especially for those who are not comfortable with Compressor and are not sure how to set it up. There's a couple of really neat tips or tricks in the plugin to help you go faster, but also it just brings it more, I would say, modern than the classic, but still you can use the classic way. Let's just dive in right away. So I'm going to use it on different sounds, loops of drums and bass and guitar and synthesizers, and we'll listen with and without, and we'll play with the features. I'm trying to not compress this video because we're listening to compression. So you might feel that this video is lower in volume than my usual videos, and you just have to bring the volume up because I want you to be able to hear exactly what the compressor does, knowing still that it's going to be a little bit modified by the YouTube algorithm of audio encoding. So let's just try this with listening to this. So you should put headphones because we're listening to sound. You're going to hear more about everything. So we're going to start with a simple kick snare drum. It's a loop. I'm going to turn on the Hornet. Actually, turn on here. So right now you see you've got the input, you get the output. Okay, you have the attack. You want it to be very quick or slow. So the attack is basically how much time it will take before it starts compressing. So if you want to hear the attack and compress after, you want to have a longer attack. And the release is how long it's going to keep the compression before it goes back to nothing. So if you want a really quick compression, fast attack, fast release, when you hear it longer, like the snare is going to be louder, because it's the trigger, the kick is triggering the compressor here. But if you want this to be longer, so the compressor is not, we can play with that. And this is the ratio. 4, it's 4 dB per 1 dB, so 4 for 1, 4 to 1 compression, 8 to 1 compression, 12 to 1 compression. So we're getting to 12, you're closer to a limiter. 20, you're in the limiting features. For 4 and 8, you're more into compression than limiter. And all was the fact when you press the 4 buttons at the same time on the hardware, you had another type of compression. So you have this also. And you can see different things. You can see the input, the output, and you have a mark up. So it's going to automatically mark up so that when you change stuff, the volume does not change so much. You don't have a depth or a big switch. Now at the bottom, you've got a lot of really cool things. You have the input trim, so you can by yourself bring more into the input. And see now the inputs are linked because here you're in linked I/O. So as you bring down the input, the output trim is how much is going to come out. So you can trim on top of this. You can always just click here and type, you want 0. You go, well, I'm not sure what I want to see. The target trim, say I want 0 view. You can say auto trim. So now it's too much. It's too close to 0. I want to say plus it. It's just like, it's going to be too much again. So you can decide where you want it to target the value, and it's auto trim. After that, you can turn it off. So you can just use it to select the right amount that you want. You also have the target. It's a gain reduction. You want to target a gain reduction of -20. You want a -10. It's kind of where you're targeting this value. You can put auto gain reduction. So now it's playing with the input to get to that. Say I want to have -20. It's going to boost the volume up to be able to output this. You can auto attack and release. You can change this. Get something that you want. You can even go back to auto trim. Well, it sounds super distorted because I had this. You still have the control to get what you want out of it. So the limiter can really bring out the bass. You can distort the bass if needed, or you can have more into a compression mode. And again, you can turn these off to control a little bit more, not to distort, not to go to the maximum. But again, the target gain reduction, if you put it auto, but this can be really interesting for the attack, because as the sound is playing, if there's difference in the way that the sound plays, it will change the gain reduction. So this is interesting. Think about it. You could send different type of sound. Let's say you put that on the master out or a subgroup, and then everything that goes through that is being controlled depending on what's coming in. So you can go from something soft to really hard hitting, and it will change the attack and release listening to it. So that's really cool. And then you have the wet, dry, and oversampler if you want, or oversampling if you want. You can take out the analog sound out of it, and it's much more clinical. You hear it's clearer, but you don't get that background sound. The back sound, if you turn it back on, it's more muffled in a way, or compressed, and you get a hiss of the original machine. There's the noise floor of the machine, or you can turn it off, because this is a recreation and it's virtual. So why imitate the limits of the original? But I like all these options. It's really cool. And then it can be really in your face. I'm putting a lot of stuff in your face right now, just to make it so obvious. But let's listen to this on other sound like this one. Without it, there's already a bump, a bassy sound for the kick. Let's try it with the auto trim. Just by setting these, by clicking automatic, then I can play with that. Some control, or really a limiter. Again, it can bring out the bass. In this case, bass starts to saturate. More high end, clearer, crystal clear in the high end. And now it becomes, let's try it with this one. Now this one without it, kick is there, but it doesn't, you don't hear it rumble and stay as long. Or turn it on, now you hear it even, now you even hear it distorting. It just resonates longer. So it could be really interesting depending on the type of music that you're making. So now you have the input is just, it's mostly about bringing more of the input to get that bass that is soft here, because it brings it up and then compress, so you hear more of the bass that was lower in volume, and you have that, it's in your face and it's resonating. Again, auto gain. Without it, sounds is nice, wide, present. You have that little punchy sound. We're gonna try to tame it. So now it's a bit less. If you turn it back on, with analog, auto attack and release, let it catch it. The attack is very fast, so I want to hear right away. But it gives it a nice release of 3. Leave it out. I'm just gonna try it out, see what it does. And I like the sound of it. Without the analog, without the hiss, with the analog. And then now you hear it pumping. That's a cool sound. It's part of the sound of how this thing responds, and now it's really, really pumping. So this is really a good way to understand how this sounds. Let's try with the next. The logic is, if you know that your target gain reduction is 10, it's because you're basically, when you bring up 10 dB of background sound, because the loudest sound is too loud and the softer sound is too soft, and you want it to be more close and bring everybody back up. So you want the lowest sound to bring up of 10 dBs. So you want a gain reduction of 10 and then making everything back up with this markup. So this thing is going to make up the gain after you did reduce of 10 dB. So that's really well done. Let's try this thing now. Without it, you hear the front sound playing. The background is kind of washed out. Bring it back in. The background is much more in your face. We just brought it down 20 dB. Actually, we brought the top 20 dB and we brought everybody back up 14 dB. So the noise, the floor, the background sound has been boosted. Even more background, you basically boosted up 20 dBs up to a 0.7 here and makeup. Let's say auto gain and attack release. Without it, just have the front sound, the attack. With it, you have all that background sound happening. So you bring back the reverb if you want, and the delays and all that stuff. So this is really a way of using it. And then by playing the different ratios, we're still into auto gain, so you're changing them. And if I turn it off, honestly, this plugin is a really quick way of getting the sound right. With all these auto trim, auto gain reduction, auto attack release, and well, link IO, it's always useful. It's just really quick to get something started without even needing presets. I didn't use any presets. Well, there's some of them, but I don't care about them because every time I put something in, I try these things first, the auto analysis, but I need to know how much I want to boost or not. Or even if I don't know, I turn these on, I listen to the sound, I go, this is cool, this is too much, and then I go unmute them or deactivate them, and then I can just tweak it the way I want. So, and I like the sound. It sounds really nice. If you want it to be more analog, you can. If you want to be more crystal clear digital, you can. It's just a cool, simple, efficient, and helping plugin for limiting. It's a cool sounding FET compressor. Good job. That's it. Stay safe and make more music, and see you soon. Cheers.